Right, so we're ready to go? We're being taped? Okay. Okay, so this is the regularly scheduled Town of Nantucket Board of Appeals meeting, Thursday, February 8th, 2018. Can I get an approval, a motion to approve the agenda as probably amended by now? No, as written.
So moved.
Anybody want to second that?
I'll second.
Any further discussion? No? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right, so we have got some minutes we have to approve. I know that there's some rules that well, Eleanor reminded us that we're supposed to do these in a timely manner. So anyway, I did read them. They looked okay to me. November 9th, December 14th, January 11th. Did anybody else have read them and want to comment on them, or are we good with them? You? Jeff, Kieran, everybody? Somebody want to make a motion to approve the minutes as written?
I'll make the motion. Second.
Okay, Kieran made the motion, Michael seconded it. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So that was unanimous. So, old business 5103. We don't have to do anything on these, do we?
No, because they were continued.
They were already continued to March 8th. Okay, yeah. So then we're on to 2717, Douglas Lebrecht, Gina Lebrecht, 4 Daffodil Lane, a request to withdraw without prejudice. I assume they got what they wanted from the planning board,
Correct.
so they don't need our permission. So how does everyone feel about that?
Fine with me.
Anybody here in the audience talk about that one? No. It's fine with me. Anybody else? Good? Susan? Mm-hmm. Okay. Would somebody please make a motion to grant the request to withdraw without prejudice?
I'll make that motion.
Second. Michael makes a motion. Kieran seconds it. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next one was continued to March 8th. March 8th. So we're on to new business. 4117, Susan J. McMaster, Shannon and Pamela Bass, applicants. They appear to be requesting, making a request to withdraw without prejudice. So, I don't think I have a problem with that. Does anybody have a problem with that? No? No? Anybody here to speak about this one? No? Okay, so...
Make a motion to request the withdrawal
Okay, without prejudice?
without prejudice.
All right. Somebody want to second that?
Second.
Jeffrey seconds it. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Okay. So on to new business 218, Paul J. Cronin, Megan B. Cronin, 89 Somerset Road, for the applicant.
Am I standing here? Is this thing?
Yeah, you should use it because, believe it or not, some people watch.
Rick, it's under the speaker. You'll get feedback. That's why it was set where it was.
That's fine with me. This is kind of my wheelhouse right here.
It's
all right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Bodette for the applicants, Paul and Megan Cronin. The property is at 89 Somerset Lane. This is a request for a special permit, or in the alternative, a variance, to allow for a 74-square-foot addition to the Covenant House on the property. The premises exists as a condominium. It has 2 dwellings that are within the condominium. One is subject to this application. That's the Covenant House on the property. The lot is non-conforming as to lot area, 13,947 square feet in the R40 district, requiring 40,000 square feet. It's also non-conforming as to ground cover. It has at least 1,511 square feet on a lot that's undersized is allowed 1,500 square feet. There is, you'll notice on the site plan, a 65 square foot shed. If you include that, it's at 1,576, I think. So either way, it is over the ground cover threshold of 1,500 square feet. The zoning history you'll see from our application, and I think Eleanor's description as well, is curious at best. I've never seen anything like this, quite honestly. The history is that it's, I think, until I want to say 2010, it was always in the Lug 2 zoning district, requiring 80,000 square foot lots, was always undersized, and by virtue of the zoning bylaw, always was allowed 1,500 square feet. But the majority of the plans that I've seen on this property show it in the R2 or R20 eventually zoning district. So at some point the owners, and I think my client when he bought in 2014, and Jeff Blackwell as well, always thought that this property was in R20. So any of the building permits, it was always built under R20. And for a long time actually conformed, because again, 1,500 was the maximum. At some point in 2005, it looks like, an addition was put on one of the dwellings, and it at that point went over the 1,500 square foot ground cover threshold. Again, it was under the 12.5% that you'd be allowed in R20 if that were the case. But again, that was a mistake, and it was never in R20, so far as I can tell, not all the way back to 1972. So at that point, it went over the ground cover threshold, and it's been like that ever since. There were some changes to the ground cover requirements. There's also 123 square foot shed on the property. Now that shed is not counted towards ground cover under the bylaw, so if you subtract that, that's where we get to the 1,576 with the smaller shed that's there as well. My client has said he will remove that shed if the board sees fit to make him remove it. So this is, what has happened here is that my client bought the property thinking it was an R20, brings plans to the HDC to put on this 74 square foot addition to the Covenant House, and it gets approval. I think eventually got to Marcus's desk, and I think it was Marcus who eventually finally said, well, wait a minute, this isn't an R20, and you need to go to the zoning board if you want to put an addition on the property. So he's gone through all this, and now we're here to ask for your relief by special permit to allow us to increase the non-conforming ground cover on the property by 74 square feet. So I can answer any questions, or hopefully that you guys have. And that's our presentation. We hope that you'll grant the relief, either by special permit. We've asked for a variance in the alternative as well. But either way, that's what we're seeking.
Richard, I have a couple of questions for you.
Sure.
The master deed dated 2004 and revised in 2014 says that you're at 11.9% ground cover, as opposed to 12.5% allowed in the R2 district.
Yep.
So this master deed is wrong.
Yep.
Okay, so there is no new master deed for this property that reflects current zoning? Because I don't see one in
No.
here. Okay.
There will be, obviously. I don't
All
know
right.
that we would, if you were to deny this, I'm not sure that we would change that. I mean, the zoning chart on the master deed is frankly irrelevant. In other words, the master deed and the master site plans just show you what's on the ground. The fact that there's actually a zoning table on there is kind of immaterial for my purposes. But yeah, I think if we were to get this approved, we will have to do a new master site plan that updates it. And I think at that point, just a correct zoning table, if it's put on there, will be on the plans.
Right, it's the only plan that you provided us, that's why I asked the question.
Right, it's the only thing I had until yesterday. Eleanor, did Jeff drop off the full-size plans?
He did.
Okay.
Okay, sorry, guys.
But I believe they're in the staff report. I included it.
Good to know. Good to know.
Yeah, so now Jeff has given us an updated plan that shows it in R40 with the correct ground cover on it, everything.
Do we have an inkling as to why everybody, including Mr. Blackwell, thought this was R20?
I have an idea.
I mean, the only thing I was thinking, I haven't got an answer to that, if that's your question. I was assuming, it's R20 across the street, and he thought it was R20 as well at some point. I don't know. But there was definitely a plan done. There's an original plan, and I think it's got Jeff's stamp on it that does say Lug 2. So at some point, he's had a lot of people working for him over the last 20 years. So
his 1995 plan does say Lug 2.
Yeah. So I don't know if someone in his office, did the work, and Jeff, in his haste, just stamped it. But
You said you think you have an inkling?
Well, I mean, I think everyone's noticed that the lag time between a zoning change and the tables getting changed and the maps getting changed could be 2 years.
Yeah, but this was never R20.
Yeah.
And never changed to R20. So,
Well, wasn't there a big zoning change there in that area, maybe like in 2008, 2009?
2010.
2010, I think, is when it went to R40. I mean, that was what I assumed as well, Michael. When I first looked at this, I thought, oh, it was R20, and it just never updated the plan. But Ed's right. It was that was what was so curious to me. It was never R20. This lot was never R20. It was always Lug 2, and then recently it changed to R40. So,
Odd.
I mean, I think the explanation is I don't know that it's material to the application, but I think the explanation, Ed, is it's clearly a mistake all around.
Is it Lug 2 around it? I mean, just it doesn't matter for
Yeah,
this, but just curious.
I don't remember. I mean, I'm sure the farm might be, but it's R20 across the street in that in the subdivision.
Yeah.
It's R20 on the other side the other side of Somerset,
Right.
on either corner. But there's some C-Tech in there. I mean, it's changed a bunch recently.
okay. Any other questions right now? So the zoning map, does that show it?
I'm looking it up right now, just
This is
so R40, this is on the edge, the southeastern edge of an R40 block. Abutted on the other side of Somerset Road by a little bit of RC2, some C-Tech, as you said. There's also, on the other side of the road,
I mean, arguably, it doesn't matter that somebody thought it was R20 at some point. I mean, it never was.
I agree.
And so, I mean, you got to take the present zoning, it's over. I mean, normally we don't increase the ground cover once it's over. How does everyone feel about it?
I feel, well, looking at this map where everything was Lug 2 to R40, it's, it's the smallest lot. And what's across the street? R20?
Across the street is, on the other side of Somerset Road, is a little bit of RC2, a little bit of C-Tech, and R10 a little bit further down,
Marty McGowan has his landscaping business there.
Lug
and,
3 in the Bartlett Farm.
That's right here, though, right?
It's,
Yeah.
it's kind of a mixed bag all over there.
I mean, across the street has always been R20 though. This section over here.
Across that, yeah.
That's all
That's
R20.
R20. So the other
And-
side of Somerset
Other side.
Lane is R20.
And so this lot is like, is it a pork chop or is there another little strip there? It's hard
well,
to
there's that
see.
little, it's a,
But-
I mean, there's a
well,
little
it
strip
has
that
a
runs all
little-
the way back there.
No, I don't think so, because it has
No?
this little,
It's just an odd-shaped lot. It's not a pork chop at all.
what's this line then?
It's kind of like, it looks like a dotted line between the nursery, which is behind it.
Can I just show you this?
Yeah, sure.
I'm sorry.
Surfing hydrangea
Because you'll
nursery
know
is
since
right
you're so
here.
familiar.
It's a way, it shows on
Oh,
Jeff's
this is a
plan.
way? Okay. I can see now there's a little line there. So
This isn't what we're talking about.
No, I know.
Oh, that is the, this is the lot.
Yeah, that's the lot right there, right?
Yeah, that's the lot.
Oh, this is a way.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry,
okay.
you're right.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
that is a way. I saw the original Lug 2 plan, shows that as a way, sorry.
And so this was carved off of this lot?
That I have no
Who
idea.
knows?
If it was, I mean, probably, I guess.
Yeah, because it's just random, like you have all these big lots, and then you have this little teeny one that seems to be more in line with all these than with this.
Yeah.
Would be my feeling, so.
Yeah.
Okay,
Anybody else you want to speak?
Is there anybody in the audience who came to speak about this one?
Is there any mail on this?
No mail.
I mean, the other thing we can do that I know you've done historically or offered historically on some of these applications is, there's 123 square foot zoning shed, and we could obviously agree not to increase the size of that to the allowed 200. I mean, I know that's something you guys have done on other properties.
The current shed's 123 square feet.
Where does the 60 square foot shed fit in, or am I looking at it?
That's on there as well. It's on the neighbor's exclusive use area. It was there when my client bought it, but that's something he can obviously remove as well.
Aren't both of them on the exclusive use area of one?
Of the neighbor's property, yeah. Of
Yeah.
the other unit, yes.
Right.
Unit 1.
And they're willing to give up their rights?
Yep.
wow.
Well, I mean, I think, they're the original owners, and I mean, I think they didn't know that this had gone on either, so.
Well, again, I'm not sure whether it went on or not makes a difference. I mean, it was,
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with you. I mean, that's why I said I don't think it really matters
I don't
why
think it
Jeff did what he did. It's just it happened, unfortunately.
yeah, I guess, I mean, there's a little bit of caveat emptor. I mean, you buy it, or unfortunately you rely on someone to tell you it's X and it's really Y. I don't know that is a good reason to continue the trend. I'm only,
No, I don't disagree, but I think that you have to kind of weigh the pending storm against the 74 feet that they're looking for.
I don't understand the pending storm
Well, I mean, the
reference.
whatever this presents to the homeowner as, obviously there's something very important, otherwise it wouldn't be here. So I think if they're willing to agree to minimize the size of the shed to what currently exists, I would support this application.
Okay. My comment to that would only be that every applicant that comes here, by virtue of coming here, thinks it's important.
Mm-hmm.
So,
I mean, I think if I may, Mr. Chairman, I mean, I think, what you guys have to weigh, irrespective of importance, right? I mean, you're right. It's important to him. It's a covenant house. It's his home. just wants to make it slightly bigger on the first floor, that's it.
Yeah.
And, but what you have to weigh is it substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood? I mean, I don't know that it is at 74 square feet. I would venture to suggest that most people wouldn't even notice it, so.
Mr. Chair?
Yep.
I might add, I believe I put this in staff report too, the other component is that there is not an enlarging of the footprint per se, because it's an enclosing of an existing deck / porch, so they're leaving the footprint as is. Not that there's a setback non-conformity there anyway, but it's not like there's additional massing in the sense of.
Yeah, that I don't buy. Sorry. I mean, put your porch on first and then come in and ask for, you want to fill it in? I'm not saying they did that, by the way. I'm saying one could if one wanted to use that argument. Anyway, how does everyone else feel?
I don't think I have a problem with it.
No problem?
I don't think I have a problem with it either.
Okay. It's 3 no problems.
I've got lots of problems, but this thing in particular, I'm wondering when they're going to start holding the surveyors accountable for their mistakes, because it seems like we're just looking the other way every time we find out, backtrack, it goes back to the surveyor somehow. And I don't know.
Well, I don't disagree with you there either, but this isn't necessarily an issue that, the surveyor definitely would be responsible if they had then built this somehow, got a building permit with someone saying it was R2, and Marcus hadn't noticed it. Then I think we would have certainly a more compelling reason to approve it. I just think we've been pretty across the board not to increase ground cover, but.
I think I would have more of an issue if there wasn't already the existing deck. Like, I feel like they're not. It's not going to. I don't think it's substantially detrimental to the neighborhood. But I generally do not like giving the ground cover. But I feel like this is a unique circumstance with the zoning, and I don't know who is responsible for it or who should have caught it before the house was purchased, but it's a lot of times people buy homes based on what they have left to build, and then to do it and then find out that it's not there. I mean, there's that I would imagine somebody made a mistake somewhere not finding it. And I don't think the homeowner should be punished for that.
Well, I don't think they are being punished.
Well, no, I don't. Right. If we said no, I think they.
They'd be being punished if we asked them to. If it were there, and we said no, then they would either have to take it down or.
Yeah.
Remedy it some way. That I think would be punishment. This is not punishment, in my opinion.
Well, whatever. I maybe punishment is not the right word, but I don't think it's the homeowner's fault that they're in the circumstance that they're in now. And I don't think, hopefully this isn't, I don't think I've seen one come before us like this before, where there's been the history of what everyone thought it was zoned was incorrect. And I think they acted in good faith to, I don't know. I just don't have a problem with it.
Yeah, that's fine. So, did you want to say something, Rick?
I was just going to add to that the surveyor isn't going to pay the price for this one. Whoever he was beholden to 13 years ago when the mistake was made, when it started to be made, and that's when a permit was issued and it went over ground cover. And it's not my guy. In other words, Paul didn't hire Jeff to do an as-built and then, has Jeff on the hook for doing a wrong as-built. It happened a long time ago, and it's kind of unfortunately just been relied upon for a long time. So.
Okay. So, does somebody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion to approve the relief requested.
Are there any conditions?
By special permit or variance? Maybe, I want to form your motion, but maybe Mr. Bodett has an
Preference?
idea on how to do it by special permit.
Well, our application is the the one that I've applied for many times and never received from you guys. Just to open old wounds. But it's the criteria set forth in the bylaw that is in, I think, Eleanor's staff report that allows you to increase ground cover as long as everything else conforms and it's not substantially more detrimental. So I did, I think you do have an avenue by special permit.
And do we want to do anything about the sheds?
That's up to you, but he offered not to expand the size of the shed, so, I mean,
He
that
offered to
might
lose
take
them.
Yeah,
away-
but you lose them too.
Yeah, I don't think you can expand them. I mean, the two sheds
They go up to
total,
200 square
Yeah.
feet.
well, yeah, they 183 feet.
183.
Yeah,
There's
they can get
basically
17
a
feet.
70-plus square foot addition that could be put onto the shed.
Special permit?
Well, no, they'd have to rip one of them down, Mark, the two of them. You don't get, I mean.
No, they
I-
take the 60 square foot off
the
the
only
property
way.
and add to the shed,
Special permit.
and go up to 200 square feet. So it's one or the other. It's still, they're asking for the same amount of square footage that could potentially be added to this lot, one under a zoning exemption and one not.
What if they were to add the 65 square foot shed to the 123 square foot shed? It would still be a zoning shed.
Right.
It would
They
be in
could
one
connect
place
them and
conforming. I think it's conforming, right?
it would be 183 square feet if they're attached.
Can you even have, this is a somewhat unrelated question, can you have 2 or 4 or 10
No.
sheds? The
One.
total?
Detached
Anything
accessory
over 200
structure.
You can have one 200 square foot shed that does not count towards ground cover. Anything beyond that counts towards ground cover.
Right.
And now, as you know, the zoning shed has to be single story, no basements, no. The definition has been refined.
So you can't have
So the
multiple
60, so you're
sheds
saying the
under 200.
65.
Could be
Counts.
potentially adjoined, this is up to the applicant, but could be adjoined to the 123 square foot shed gotten out of the layout of the road where it is not conforming.
Right.
I know, but are you saying that the 65 foot,
60 square foot.
whatever, counts towards ground cover
Yes.
right now because it is a secondary shed?
is
Correct. In my staff report, I denoted that,
Okay.
detailed that it probably does contribute, even though it's not on the lot for this most recent site.
Sure.
So didn't you say, Rick, you would get rid of that shed
Yep.
and limit the other one to 123?
Yeah, and I'm sorry, I wasn't paying attention for a moment. I didn't know I didn't know where you guys were going with attaching the two sheds. I'm sorry.
I wasn't going
I
anywhere.
I don't know where that came from, but that's what I said. Yeah.
Yeah, okay, so,
Well, I guess the way I look at it is if you were to take the 60 square foot shed that constitutes as ground cover and attach it to a 123 square foot shed, it's now exempt from ground cover. So the 75 square feet you're asking for is only 15 square feet more than the ground cover.
That I already
Even
have.
now.
Yeah.
Right.
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 And, bottom line, right?
Right. Right.
Or bottom line, you get rid of the shed, you
or
keep
get
the
rid of the small
123, and you're
Right.
only getting 15 extra
Yeah,
feet,
exactly.
roughly, or however the math works.
Yeah.
So, is that
The
part?
applicant's willing to get rid of the existing 63-foot shed.
Yep.
60 foot, I think.
60.
Whatever.
Unless the board thinks in their wisdom that people should have a 65 square foot shed. But no, that was part of the application. That's what we do.
Seems reasonable to me.
Yeah. Does the board have a feeling about special permit versus variance?
I think you should do it as a special
I
permit.
do
agree.
too. Yeah, okay. So, all right, so a motion to approve the relief requested for a special permit with removal of the smaller 60-odd foot shed and limiting the other existing shed to the existing 123 square feet. That's my motion.
Second that.
Okay, the motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No, why don't we just start there and go down? So Mark, you're not voting on this.
Aye.
All those yeah, we can do that. We don't have to do a roll call. But thank you.
That's what I thought he was looking for, too.
That's what I thought
I
you
did
were
too.
looking for.
I mean, would we like to
We could have
start roll
just, we could
calling?
be done by now if you just let us say aye.
I was about to.
You're good in the habit of it last. No.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. Nay. 4-1.
Thank you.
All righty? Moving on. Now we are on 318 Robert Brandt, Lacey Brandt, 4 Ames Avenue, for the applicant.
Arthur Reed, standing in for my partner, Marianne Hanley, who's on vacation, and I guess I have to stay out of my wheelhouse, which is down there, too, for the benefit of the millions of viewers out there on the internet.
I don't think it's fair, Arthur, because you're standing on a grade,
Yeah,
and it could be a very dangerous situation.
this is true. Yes, I agree. If I come tumbling down toward the board, it may be a result of gravity, not because I'm actually attempting to assault you, which might be, under some circumstances, justified. In any event, this is an application to move an existing house on property out at Nantucket, which, if you see the aerial photographs over the years, was at one time set back quite a substantial distance from the shore, and you now see on the current aerial photos showing the lot lines of various parcels that are now well out to sea. The ocean is coming in; it's coming in inexorably, and well, it'll come to the existing house. It'll eventually come over the whole lot, and after all, we know it'll eventually come over the whole island, but that's another story. In any event, what we're trying to do is to move the existing house back as far as we possibly can on the lot, moving it toward Ames Avenue, you know, the road that goes over Millie's Bridge. It'll be 5 foot setback from that. We think that's the prudent thing to do under the circumstances. And we've been before the Conservation Commission. They will allow us to move it back wherever we want to move it back, but they've strongly encouraged us to get zoning relief in order to be able to move it back as far as possible and only have to do it the one time. So that's it. This is a pretty simple situation that's been before the board many times with regard to eroding coastal lots, and because we are getting into the front yard setback, it is a variance, but I think that this is one of those cases where the all of the standards for variance are very easily met.
Thank you. Any questions?
I went out and looked at it, and there's no question it's in jeopardy. I have one question for Mr. Reed. Does the 5 foot setback include the steps?
The steps? No, the steps will be outside of the 5 foot setback. The only change that's being made to the house is that the steps are being slid over so that they are now more or less at the center of the house rather than on the corner, in order to be able to keep them out of the setback and get the main part of the house up to the 5 foot setback.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Anybody in the audience come to speak about this one? No.
Any letters by the butters?
I don't
No.
think so.
Arthur, how many more years do you think they're going to get out of this? Did they mention anything?
You tell me. I think they'll get, yeah, they ought to get 5 or 10 years out of it if they're lucky. Five anyway, I think.
Yeah.
It is
5, isn't it?
4 Ames.
4.
4 Ames, yeah.
All right.
Second one after you take that right hand turn.
So, somebody, if we have no further questions, nobody in the audience wants to talk about this,
I'll make the motion to approve the application as requested.
I'll second.
okay. Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yep. 418, Norman Galvin, Genevieve
I
Galvin.
have one more question for Mr. Reed, actually. That's all right. Will this require Ames Avenue to be shut down at all? The move?
I don't think so.
Okay. Is that, I would think that if it does have to be shut down, I don't think it should be shut down in the summer.
That would make sense.
Okay, we already voted on that one, so
Yeah,
moving on.
please.
So back to 418, Norman Galvin, Genevieve Galvin, 3 Gold Star Drive, for the applicant.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Bodett for the applicant, Tris and Genevieve Galvin. The property is 3 Gold Star Drive. It's located in the R10 zoning district. The property is non-conforming as to lot size. It has 6,580 square feet in a 10,000 square foot zone. It is also non-conforming as to setbacks. Both structures on the property, there's a garage and a single-family dwelling. Both structures are less than a foot away to each sideline setbacks. The house is also 10 feet into a 20-foot front yard setback. The proposal before you is a request for a special permit to allow the applicant to convert the garage on the property into a second dwelling. The plan is to completely demolish the garage but keep the same foundation. Nothing will change about the foundation. It'll be used to place a single-family dwelling on top of it. And therefore, it will continue to be in the sideline setback by less than a foot. And in addition, you'll see from the site plan that the step on the new second dwelling will continue to be in the front yard setback, though by just about a foot, and it's 2 steps in there. And I think it's probably exempt these days anyway. But
You mean the primary dwelling?
the second dwelling, nothing's changing about the primary dwelling. So the house will still be in the setbacks.
Out of curiosity, Rick, is this one of the districts where you can put the steps in the setback? Probably will be soon.
Yeah, I don't know that it is actually. Did that actually go through at town meeting, that change?
Yeah, it definitely did, but it was
Yeah.
specific to certain districts.
Yeah, it might have only been lug 2 or lug 1, and this isn't clearly.
No,
Smaller
No, hold
districts.
on.
no, it was smaller ones.
Smaller
It wasn't things like lug
Oh.
2.
Like R10, stuff like
Who knows? Just curious. Because if not, you would need relief for that.
Yeah. So that would be an extension of the front yard setback intrusion that already exists by 10 feet, but it'd be a much lesser intrusion.
What is this district while we're waiting? R10?
Yep. This is a 20-foot
I would think it would be in our
front yard.
this exemption.
Okay, while we're getting an answer on the steps, how does everyone feel in general? I mean, the structure's already there?
This is pre-existing. non-conforming, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, the pictures show it in,
Is
Yep.
the garage a slab, Rick? It is.
Yes.
Rick, is this a lot of record?
Yep.
Okay, because I see in the rear and side yard setback that you can reduce it to 5 feet, according to this zoning table in VR.
I don't think it's in VR.
Well, that's what it's saying.
It does
Your village
say on
Oh,
the-
this is Topham's plan. It says it's in the VR district.
I thought it was in the R10. Just hang on, let me get my.
He's got it in parentheses R10, but he says village residential classification. So that must be incorrect.
well, and rather than perpetuating another myth, we should get it right. Just saying.
No, I have a survey from Bracken here, so let me. I'm sure that's in your packet, but.
Bracken says it's R10.
Yeah, R10.
Makes sense.
But Mr. Topham did note village residential, but that's a mistake. So let's
Wishful
just
thinking,
get that into
perhaps.
the record. Let's get it into the record in 2018. Eleanor, did you find out, is R10 part of the steps thing?
I have trouble finding it.
This Topham one says R10.
Yeah, but it also says
Says
village.
village
in this
residential,
table.
Oh.
parentheses R10.
It says village residential, which is not correct.
Oh, I see.
I don't blame.
I don't think it is what I'm looking at here, more than 2 steps providing access to a structure. So I don't.
Yeah, I don't-
It doesn't count as part of a structure per se. But this is a draft, and I'm unable to, I'm sorry, my network is not allowing me to get what I really need. Go on the town website.
I mean, when I was filing this application, and I'll tell you that I had Brian look into this because it was my understanding that it had been limited to certain districts. And for whatever reason in my mind, I thought it was the bigger districts. But anyway, Brian came back with a definitive answer for me, and I thought he said it didn't matter which district, but I might be thinking of it a different way. I can't remember, to be honest.
First,
but-
it was going to be all encompassing.
Right, and then there was a motion to change that.
Yeah, there
right?
was some pushback on that,
And did that actually pass?
I believe it did pass, but it was not all encompassing. It was
Got the warrant.
generally the smaller.
That's my
Districts?
recollection, too.
Wasn't it because of the floodplain?
Well, that was
That was the-
that was a legitimate reason. All encompassing in the entire island. Now you
No.
could again make Arthur's argument that we're all going to be underwater someday. But,
Well, and also on the bigger lots, like, it's not like
Yeah,
your lot line is right
exactly.
there, so.
that was the argument. You were here. You were,
Huh?
Susan. You were here during that discussion.
Huh?
It just says more than 2 steps.
Okay, so it's,
Are you questioning my memory?
Excuse me.
So it didn't get limited, right?
I didn't hear what Eleanor said.
As far as I can tell, it just says more than 2, I'm looking at the warrant, for Article 18, which was the technical amendment definition article. And the change in the definition of structure included an exemption of more than 2 steps, providing access to a structure.
In every district?
Maybe we should go back and check the minutes.
well, that's the Warren article she's reading from. Was it amended, though, at town meeting?
I don't recall.
I don't have an issue, period, with that.
Okay.
I can look at the
One way or another.
town clerk thing is.
Well, while we're waiting, does anybody in the audience want to speak about this?
Adopted without any amendment.
I don't think that's right, but we'll get to the bottom of that. I mean, Rick, you
I don't really care either way.
Well, you would care if you didn't get the relief on the steps.
Yeah, but
May not need it.
he needs the relief on the steps, or he needs the step to be there because that's code.
Right.
So,
Well, I mean,
well,
the
of
door.
course I would care,
arguably
but it
the
would mean
door-
you wouldn't.
Arguably, the door could be maybe relocated, probably not in this particular design. I don't really care about them. I just think it'd be nice to know whether or not you can do it as a matter of right.
I mean, the bottom line is you do not need a landing at that door if it's less than 2 steps.
Well, then he could comply. That's my point. So why give the relief for the steps. You can comply.
It's just more comfortable, quite frankly. Although, is the door recessed? No, it's not. I was looking at some shadow there. I thought maybe it got recessed.
Joe is telling me he needs the landing by code. Of course, he did call it VR, so.
Yeah, I don't believe it's correct if you only have one step to grade, that you need a landing at the door. I think we went through this once before on Atlantic Ave,
Yeah, we did, remember.
and I think it was brought to our attention that due to a mass amendment to the building code, that no landing was required if you only had one step, two risers to grade. I don't like that in practice. I think you should have a landing at a door, but
See, I thought it was the opposite of that, Mark. I thought they made the argument that the landing was required.
That thing up on the cliff.
Was this 8 Atlantic?
Whatever that was?
Well, no, that was different. I thought it was Atlantic.
Involved somewhere in there?
That was the stone step was,
I thought that was Atlantic.
That was,
was that Curtis
Well,
Yeah,
Barnes?
Darrymore.
Wasn't it Curtis Barnes?
Yes.
yeah, that was Darrymore, then there was another one that was rectified on Wall Street.
Yeah.
I suspect that R10 was one of the districts, if not the entire island, but you can now put your steps into the setback, so.
it has to deal with the smaller lots. It wouldn't
I
make
I
think
mean,
any
just
sense
so
to
we
go
get
out
this
there.
right, though, should we
I'm not
continue
finding
so you can
anything in
find
here.
out, or do
I think
you?
we should check the minutes from town meeting, because
I'm having Brian look right now.
Great.
I thought
Yeah.
Brian looked already and said,
well, if he looked at what Eleanor's looking
Well,
at, then.
no.
Well,
He's
he
gonna-
could be looking
he's not gonna
what
look
was
at just the
voted on.
warrant.
Eleanor's only looking at
He
the
said he's
warrant
looking now.
article itself.
Yeah. What?
I mean, I will tell
He
you
said
that
it was that there were no amendments to it.
Yeah, I know, but that's not what anyone's recollection is.
Trish, have you already done the work to the main house?
No, I haven't done any work.
That's proposed?
Yeah. That's future.
Because you'll have to come back here for that, too.
Yeah.
okay.
I mean, I don't want to continue, so I'd rather, if we can, find out now.
Yeah.
If that's what makes you guys comfortable.
Yeah.
Are you telling me you wouldn't grant the relief if it's?
No, I don't think.
No.
No, and I
No.
think
Yeah.
what Ed's saying, that
'Cause-
if it was limited, that we think if it was limited, that R10 was one of the
It would be
districts that
better
it was
to do
limited in.
Correctly now.
I agree.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
all I'm saying.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
You're asking for two things. You're asking to do a use conversion,
Yep.
and you're asking for relief from this
Setbacks.
setback. So if we don't have to grant you the
Well,
relief from the
sideline
setback because
and
it's
the front yard setback.
non-essential to this zoning district, then all you're asking for is relief from change of use. With
No.
respect to
Well,
the
I'm
fact
also-
that
there's
the
still
building
this-
is currently in the setback.
Right. It's still the side
But you're not
setback.
changing the footprint or
Yeah.
anything else like that.
Yeah. I mean, look, I don't
Right.
want more relief than I need.
So-
That's for sure.
Sure you
To
do.
me, I don't think it really matters personally.
Well,
Well,
again.
it would matter if he needs the step.
No, not if he's asking for relief from the front and side yard setbacks.
Well, he doesn't necessarily, and nor do we need to grant relief on the front yard setback if the steps don't count.
Right.
So why grant relief? We don't need to, is all I'm
Well,
saying.
if we get a
So,
clarification, I agree with you.
we'll wait a
If
few
not,
minutes and
Right,
then we're
as
going
long
to
as
move
the-
on until,
Is this?
you give up?
All I can say is that the warrant says, and this was, and per the town clerk's summary, this article was approved without an amendment. The definition of structure was changed to say 2 steps. It doesn't specify districts. I believe that at one point that was discussed, and I think they removed it.
That's typical.
I know that there was some input at town meeting.
We agree with you, but we're going to backhand take it out later. I'm just
I mean,
saying.
you could also, I guess, grant, if you're inclined to grant the relief, you could say,
I'm not inclined to grant the front yard setback relief because we don't even know if it's required. So I don't have a problem with the building's there. You can either continue to find out definitively, or you go with, you don't need that relief because it was approved.
yeah, as long as the decision says we don't need the relief.
Well, we don't know that you don't need the relief, so we're not
Well,
going to
that's what
say
I'm saying.
that.
You're saying
We're
go
not
with that.
saying that. You would have
Okay.
to prove to yourself that you don't need the relief.
So then our,
If he does need the relief, though.
Then you'd have to come back.
yeah.
Because, I mean, it's
I
not
don't
our
think
job
you
to
need relief,
determine
quite
whether you need
frankly.
relief.
I don't either.
I think it's more than two steps
Well,
account.
For two reasons. I think zoning supports what you already have, and B, if it
Well,
didn't
then
support it,
continue it and find
you don't
out
have to have a
whether
landing at that
you need the
door
relief.
because of the number of steps that you have.
Or vote it, I don't care, but I'll just vote a different way, and
Under the
that's fine
building
too.
code, Massachusetts amendments.
Isn't he reusing the slab?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, I mean, so we don't know where the elevation of the first floor is going to be unless the slab is the first floor.
First floor has to be 4 inches minimum
Yeah,
above
I
the
mean,
slab
By
level.
the time you put a door
He'll
in
put
there,
a new wooden
on
foot
top
in.
of a frame, I mean, it could be over whatever the minimum is allowable to step from grade into a house. So,
I'm not saying he doesn't need steps and or the landing. I'm simply saying there's a good chance he doesn't need relief. So why would we sort of grant relief if you don't need it?
Couldn't you, just a suggestion,
Go ahead.
couldn't you grant the relief if assuming 4 other members don't have a problem with the step or the landing? Couldn't you grant the relief to the extent we need it and to the extent it's exempt? You're not granting the relief? In other words, keep it open?
I could see my way to that.
Yeah,
I
like
can
you-
too, because I don't want to have to make them
You
come
can
back
grant
if there's
as a relief.
the clerical error on the amendment, on the
On the
warrant.
condition that it's needed, assuming that it's needed.
And by the way, and if you vote that way and I find out in the next day that we don't need the relief, then I'll draft the decision to say no relief is required for.
Under section such and such,
Under this,
or
yeah.
Under the building
take a
code.
motion?
That's not my motion.
Is it yours?
I'll make that motion.
Could you articulate the motion?
We'll let Mr. Bodett.
Well, you're going to grant the relief as requested, right? To the extent that they need.
It's necessary.
Right.
And the parking plan, I guess, when you make your motion, are you going to make any mention of that?
Why?
Going to be submitted later?
It's
But
a
just-
legitimate parking plan.
I think that's what it,
They're not asking for waivers for that. So.
Yeah.
Well, you got forced, well,
I can put the usual as shown on, approved as shown on the plan submitted yesterday or whatever.
That works.
But they didn't ask for anything for the front yard setback. That's not part of the legal notice.
Well, that's again, that's the problem. You didn't ask for the
So
front yard
let's just not
setback.
include
Well,
the
it's on
front.
it's on our site plan though. We asked to extend we asked to extend that's the relief we were requesting is to extend the setbacks.
Yeah, the one you got
No.
this,
Where's the staff report?
No, it's on Joe's original site plan. With the
But don't
stoop
you
with the stoop
specifically-
inside the
What
setback.
was the language in the notice?
to read it. Eleanor just said it wasn't asked for.
Allow the alteration, vertical extension, and change of use of a garage structure to a residential use. Applicant proposes to convert the single-story garage, which is pre-existing non-conforming as a side yard setback, into a 1.5-story second dwelling without alteration to the footprint. The garage, if so altered, will not be any closer to the side yard lot line. It's just not called out.
It's not called, there's nothing about the front yard intrusion.
Right, so it's on the site plan, but, I mean, it's the same relief. It really is. It's an alteration, extension of a pre-existing non-conforming structure.
I don't think you're going to need it on the front yard, quite frankly.
Yeah, so I don't know. I guess I don't want to beat this to death. This is going on too long. You guys do
We
it.
usually adjourn at 5, so we want to stretch this.
Right, I know. This is like the shortest agenda I've ever seen, and we're talking about it for an hour. So,
It's either that or back to work.
Well,
So
if you're going to
then,
grant the relief requested, there was no, I mean, it wasn't spelled out that he wanted any relief in the front yard, that he only wanted relief in the
Yeah,
side
I mean,
yard and the
technically,
conversion.
I would think it's a technical defect, if you will, that you didn't ask for it. And therefore, I mean,
So-
yes, you say it's on your site plan, but we could infer from this that you determined you didn't need it.
right, and that
You
may be the
didn't
case,
ask
Ed.
for
I
it.
just don't remember. That really could be the case.
well, no, I think you did determine you didn't need it, right? Because you said Brian.
That
came
I think
back.
that's my memory. Is but
Yeah.
That's
I
fine.
just
So you're
had
not
me
going to
question
get the
myself.
relief on the front yard. That's
Yeah.
fine.
Not on
I don't
Brian's
think you
plan.
need it.
It's shown on Topham's architectural plan,
And so was the reference to VR. So,
So vote, I mean, your point is vote, whatever. I don't want to force the vote to something you're not comfortable with, so.
Why don't we just grant the relief, somebody make a motion to grant the relief as requested, period. And then if there's my personal opinion, that doesn't include the front, and hopefully you don't need it.
Right.
I mean, that was, I think, what you thought, and therefore you didn't ask for it.
Well, I mean,
I
that's,
do not
I
think
mean,
he
that's
needs
what
it.
the warrant says, and it's what the town clerk's,
Everything I can find
Says,
here,
so-
looking at the town meeting website for 2017 STM, I do remember that, I believe Lisa actually stood up at town meeting and said something, in wanting to modify the article, but it wasn't approved. She didn't get enough votes. So in the end, Article 18 was approved as originally proposed.
okay.
so, Michael, so you made your motion?
Yeah, I'll make the motion that we approve the application as requested.
Okay, so I'll second.
Okay. Any further discussion? No. All those in favor? Mark, why don't you vote on this?
Okay.
Did you ask anyone else?
I asked in
Oh,
the
you
audience
did?
already, right?
Yep.
Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, did you want to talk about it? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
They got nothing else to do this afternoon.
I was going to say, anyway. So let's, go ahead.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right, so that was unanimous, seal of five.
Thanks, guys.
Yep. All right, so I don't know exactly, why are you guys here?
Watching Democracy in Action.
Sad, right?
Good answer.
Real sad.
There are
Okay.
better ways to do that.
Fair enough.
Thank you, guys.
Because there's nothing else left.
C-SPAN at home, so.
I was going
yeah.
to say, you can watch this on
You go on vacation? I understand that you go to zoning board meetings. Is that true?
It's not come to that. So there is no other business, and,
Well, what isn't there this? What about
Executive
this?
session, right?
no, that was part of that, that was just part of that packet, 2010. We're not going over the.
Oh, for the change, sorry.
No.
Sorry.
No worries. So, do we need to go into executive session to talk about the minutes?
You do.
Okay,
So this is where you get to
Retire.
stop watching Democracy.
Yeah.
right. Unless you did want to talk to us about something, no?
Actually, we have a question about the first issue, about the 74-foot extension. I just was wondering if that was setting possibly a dangerous precedent
It
in
would-
the future to come in and seek forgiveness rather than ask permission. But
It's a
It
fair
always
point.
is.
It happens more than we'd like to see, but, right?
Yeah.
if I did have the confidence to chime in with the public comment, that just
Well, the reason you couldn't necessarily come in and ask for forgiveness after the fact is you need to get a building permit to do that. And the building department arguably would flag the situation. That's what happened in that particular application.
okay, and that's why then I thought I'll just
Yeah. As opposed, if the building department had granted a building permit and then it subsequently was determined to be over, that would be a whole different issue.
And what
At
happens
the end of
then?
the day, all we
They have
did
to
was
come in.
grant them 15 square feet of additional ground cover because they agreed to remove the shed
Remove
that
the shed,
constituted as ground cover. So it was
Yes.
pretty de minimis.
Anyway, we shouldn't really necessarily speak after the fact about
Oh, yeah.
something like this, other than in general terms. So
General terms.
in general, you
Okay.
need a building permit.
Yes.
To do something. And if it turns out for whatever reason, something was funky, and that was determined after the fact, you have to come back.
Yeah.
Or you have to come here
yeah.
and ask for forgiveness.
Hence the appeals part.
Yes.
Hence the appeals part.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thank you for
Appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to make a motion to I'm going to declare that the purpose of the executive session will be to review executive session minutes that concern the litigation strategy related to the King matter.
And am I allowed to sit for this since I recused from that, or is that?
You can leave, actually.
I mean, I would like, I mean, it seems like part of this is about me and my conflict and when it came up, so I'm happy to stay, and I would like to, but am I allowed? If I
What
leave?
about me?
Yeah.
Okay.
You were here for the last one.
Oh, I was, okay.
Karen has,
Even though it's executive session?
this has been a specific board for this executive session?
Hold on one second. I think, should we go into, we're trying to determine if you even want to be here for executive session.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't think, we're not talking about the merits at this point. We're talking about the minutes, and part of the issue is, it seems to be my recusal and when it happened. And,
Well, we're not necessarily discussing or planning to discuss the minutes per se unless somebody has issue with how they, what was written and what was transcribed. If you want to say that's not what happened, then yeah, you should stick around.
I think if I was going to have a conversation about, no, that's not what happened, then that would be something that Attorney Quirk would address with me if she needed to, right? Like, it doesn't...
Well, but we shouldn't, if you don't, no, because my point being, if you don't think the minutes accurately describe what happened, you should
Well, I
be
wasn't
part of...
here, so I don't... The
No?
minutes, the
Yeah,
minutes are,
then you're good. Then,
yeah, the minutes are about what you guys talked about, whether it's true or not.
right, then I don't think you need to be here.
I mean, I'm happy to
If
stay,
you want to be
but,
part of the democratic process, feel free.
I don't see any reason
I think so.
why she shouldn't be.
Yeah, no,
I mean,
it's fine. We
executive
love
session, it's
having
not a
you.
public hearing or anything.
So let's move, let me get in there.
Do we need to do anything with the audio video?
Yeah, we're going to get there.
As soon as you vote,
As soon as we vote to go.
finish the vote, then we'll turn everything on.
Good.
So again, I'm going to start over again. I declare that the purpose of the executive session will be to review executive session minutes that concern litigation strategy related to King et al. Versus ZBA and Rugged Scott LLC, Land Court 17, miscellaneous 000573. And an open meeting to consider the minutes may have a detrimental effect on the litigation position of the board. Okay? So let's take a roll call vote on that motion. Do I need to get that? That's not even a motion, that's a declaration. So do we need a second on that, Eleanor, or
It
anything?
would be a motion to enter executive session at.
Okay, so
I
that
will
was a
make that
motion. Okay, Michael's making that motion,
Second.
and Karen seconds. So we'll take a roll call. We'll just go down from the end of the table. Jeffrey?
Aye.
Karen?
Aye.
Aye.
Michael, aye. Edward, aye. Susan?
Aye.
Okay, we're in executive session. So now we turn off your mic.